Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And in today's episode, what is the current ranking of the Philadelphia Phillies relievers when it comes to the amount of faith we have in them? I'll give you my power rankings as we break it all down.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating and reviewing. If you're checking us out in podcast form, we're available anywhere you get your podcasts, literally anywhere you find podcasts. And you can also watch us on YouTube. So if you're checking us out on YouTube, please make sure that you're liking and subscribing. That helps us out very much. It also helps you out because subscribing is free and easy. And if you do it, it'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's fun to watch Locked On Phillies. If you haven't tried it yet, you can check out this cool throwback powder blue Phillies sweatshirt that I got and the matching hat on today. A good fit going. I got to give a shout out to this sweatshirt. Funny story. Ricky Batalico actually got this sweatshirt for me. You can see him on Phillies pre and post game on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Work with him over at 97.5 The Fanatic. Of course, former all-star reliever. Yeah, he just showed up one day when I was filling in, doing TV work in the afternoons. I was like, hey, I got you the sweatshirt. So my guy, Ricky Bo, I appreciate it. If you like the sweatshirt, you got to go get it from like the New Era store, I think is where he got it from, or the Phillies team store. Anyway, enough about the fit, but that's why you got to check it out on the YouTube to see the cool stuff that I wear sometimes. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So we're leading off today's show with the current Phillies bullpen faith rankings. Who's at 1? Who's at 9? Yes, 9 now. Normally it's 8, but with the September call-ups, they're up to 9 arms out of the bullpen. And how exactly does this whole exercise work? So we'll start with that. We're also going to get into some things that need to be settled. We're into September now. The postseason begins in the month of September. Yeah, no, it'll get going end of this month. So with that in mind, what needs to be more settled than it is right now for the Philadelphia Phillies? Maybe not at this very moment, but before we get to the end of the season, the Phillies will play their final regular season game on the 28th of September against the Twins at Citizens Bank Park. And hopefully they're not leaving Citizens Bank Park after that for series, except for those away games. But I mean, being a home team in those series. And they've been making up ground on the Brewers. We will see how that all plays out. But what needs to be more concrete? And then we'll preview game 2 of the series with the Brewers. Yeah, weird mid-series off day yesterday. Aaron Nola has a huge start today for the team, for him, for the fan base, for a lot of stuff. So it's going to be a fun episode. And this is really intriguing. I just had this pop into my head today, and we haven't really talked about this recently, but with all the changes to the bullpen, I wanted to go through the faith rankings from 1 to 9. Who are the guys where you say, yeah, put them in the game, lights out, not worried about it. We're getting out of this inning. Versus the guys that are maybe on some shaky ground, and then the ones that are like, oh, please do not throw this guy under any circumstances in any type of leverage situation. Let's get one out of the way real quick, right? And by the way, I would love to see your comments on the YouTube video of how you rank your faith rankings, or if you disagree with anything, because this is very subjective, right? This is where I have them. You may not feel the same way, but I have arguments for all of these guys. Number one, if you disagree with me, you're flat out wrong. You don't know ball. You haven't been watching the Phillies. It's Jhoan Duran, our sweet, sweet baby Jhoan Duran, who I know gave up the game against the Mets in that series up at Citi Field. That was an anomaly. This dude is lights out as lights out gets. And he was awesome in game 1 against the Brewers. I can't tell you the last time I had as much faith in a reliever as I have in Jhoan Duran. That's a no-brainer, right? He's number 1. Number 2, and this is where everything else gets questionable, right? There's a sure 1, and then you could debate everybody else on this list. But I'm going to throw Matt Strahm out there. Strom is a guy who we know his ceiling is not the same as the flamethrowers. He's not going to go out there and throw 98 by people. But I think he's been underratedly good this year. He has his moments where he looks a little shaky, but you tell me another guy that you would be willing to bet on coming out of the bullpen outside of Duran that's not named Matt Strom. Like every other guy on this list has more question marks to me than Strom. Another thing to remember during this exercise, this is faith in their role. So there may be some guys where you say, well, I wouldn't throw that guy in high leverage. But for what the team is asking them to do, my faith may be higher in that guy than some other high leverage guys that I may be like, I don't feel great about them in certain spots. And the perfect example of that is that at number 3, I have Tanner Banks. Now, I don't want to see Tanner Banks in the 8th inning. I don't want to see Tanner Banks in the 9th inning. All due respect, he's had a really solid year for the Philadelphia Phillies. He is this year's Jose Ruiz, where it's just like you look up and all of a sudden you say, okay, well, he's pretty much been solid all year. His numbers look good. Have we not been talking about this guy enough? Again, I don't want his role to change because I think him as a lefty specialist in the 6th or 7th inning, valuable tool for the postseason. I feel good about Tanner Banks for what he does for this team. Really good, actually. So Tanner Banks, he could even be in the 2 spot for me. You could flip-flop Strom and Banks, and I wouldn't have a major issue with it, but he's been solid. Number 4, one of the guys who is quickly rising with the Philadelphia Phillies, but also has some shakiness. David Robertson, I'm putting at number 4 in the faith rankings. I know, right? His last appearance against the Brewers wasn't great. Now, I will say that in that inning, he handled the first 2 batters he faced easily. And then JT Realmuto took a foul ball to the groin area and was down for a while, understandably. And I think that might have thrown off his rhythm in that inning a little bit. It's not a perfect excuse of like, don't blame Robertson. No, he needs to continue to settle in to pitching out of a bullpen again at the major league level because he had most of this season off before the Phillies signed him. But I look at him and I say, veteran reliever, has pitched in the postseason before, has been in big spots. He looks like he still knows how to get batters out. If he comes into a game, it's not, oh no, this one's trouble. David Robertson's going to screw this up. I'm not saying give him more high leverage innings right now, but he's winning some stock over for me with the way that he approaches at bats. I like the veteran presence. I like what he's given the Phillies to this point so far. Again, does this bullpen need to be better than they have been for a lot of this year? Sure. Are they a perfect bullpen? Absolutely not. But this is their ranking compared to their peers in the Phillies bullpen and who I trust more and who I trust less. So it's Duran, Strom, Banks, Robertson. This is where we run into our first problem because I have a Ryan Kerkering at 5, and I cannot put him any higher than that. He's been shaky lately. Now, stuff-wise, he's 2 or 3 on this list. But in performance, I'm worried about Kerkering. Like, I don't feel great anymore about when he comes into the game. It's kind of more of the tentative, I hope he does well. I know he can do well, but while his ceiling is higher than a guy like Tanner Banks or David Robertson, he's proven that his floor is lower. And if you're playing the coin flip game with a reliever, that's not a great place to be getting ready for October. So Kerkering is right hanging out smack dab in the middle at 5. At 6 is Jose Alvarado. I know he's not eligible for the postseason, but he is in the bullpen right now. I have to have him on this list. The stuff plays, right? Always will when you throw 100. But his command has not been sharp. And we may talk a little bit more about this in the what needs to be settled type of conversation that we're going to have coming up. Should you still throw him in high leverage, even if he's not eligible for the postseason? That's a debate, and we'll have that debate. But I don't have a lot of faith in him right now to come into big-time spots outside of the fact that he throws 100. He's going to make me nervous every time he steps on the mound until we see sharper stuff out of Alvarado. And will he get that opportunity? I don't know if the Phillies will give that to him, considering he cannot pitch in the postseason. At 7, a newcomer to the Phillies bullpen. And already at 7, well, the 2 guys he's ahead of, you'll understand why. Tim Mayza. Tim Mayza we saw 1 inning out of. It was in game 1 against the Brewers so far. And you might say, well, that's not enough to determine where he is. Well, when you see the other two guys and where they're at, you'll understand. But I liked what I saw out of Mesa. I can't put him any higher than 7th because, again, super small sample size. He could be a gem. He could be a bust. But what I can go off of is in his first appearance, he looked like a major league bullpen pitcher. And the Phillies have had plenty of guys in the bullpen this year who have not looked like major league bullpen pitchers. So we'll take Tim Mesa for right now. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth, and we'll see what happens the next time he takes him out. It could be today against the Brewers. With the off day, I imagine everybody's available. So we'll see. That's more of a tentative. We'll wait and see how he progresses up or maybe down the rankings. At 8th, Daniel Robert. Now, I initially had Daniel Robert at 9. I was like, okay, well, he has given the Phillies innings at the major league level this year. I don't feel good about him in any spot. I really don't. I don't feel good when I see him on the mound. I'd prefer to not see him pitch for this team. But you have to throw guys at points, and there are different situations where guys are unavailable. He has stuff, throws hard, but man, I don't know if I'm right or wrong on this one. My gut feeling when I see him is this is going to go terribly. And maybe that's not fair to him, but that's where I'm at. I don't want Daniel Robert in any real situation in the bullpen other than you're up 5 or 6, you're down 5 or 6, mop up type stuff. And the final guy on this list is Lou Trivino, who we haven't really seen for the Phillies, and I don't really know exactly what he's going to be. That's more of a we don't know pick than a I don't have faith in him pick, but you can't have faith in someone that you really know nothing about. The other 8 guys we at least have data points on, or we have more resume. I can't look at Lou Trivino and be like, okay, I feel great about Lou Trivino for the Phillies, or I feel bad about him. He just ends up at the 9 spot more out of default. So did I nail the rankings? Do you agree with what I'm saying with the evaluation of the bullpen hierarchy? Or am I way off? Am I putting guys too high or too low? You let me know. And if anyone's got a case for any of those bottom 3 guys to be moved higher, I think you're crazy. But if you have arguments about like 2, 3, 4, 5 on my rankings, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments as to how you rank your faith meter. And everybody also, I'll just throw this out there. Everyone's got their own personal biases where it's just like, yeah, I just don't like this guy for whatever reason. He bothers me. So, hey, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I want to get a pulse of the fan base on this one. And you guys are the ones who can help me out on that. Coming up next, that list that I just put together, it's not settled. But there are some things that the Phillies need to start settling. When is the deadline? And what are the spots? We'll talk about that coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Hey, Locked On Phillies fans. Are you still paying full price for gas? Come on. Stop leaving money behind. You got to get real cash back every time you fill up. And the only way you can do that is with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. And you can start earning cash at the pump today. Also, make sure you use my limited time promo code SEASON, SEASON, and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already needed. At first, it sounds too good to be true, right? But it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card or Amazon and other brands. You don't have to wait to hit a certain mark or anything like that. Cash out anytime, get your money, basically free money. You're buying gas anyway, right? Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code SEASON for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. Again, that's promo code SEASON. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Again, that's upside.com. Let's talk about game time as well, because there's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it all takes the fun out of it. Not with Game Time, though. And that's why I use Game Time. They're the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee, which means you're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. There's some big games coming up right now, and it's not just baseball. Tomorrow night, opening night of football season, Eagles, Cowboys. You can look for tickets to that, Lincoln Financial Field. That is one of the events of the year, banner night. Plus, Phil's got the Mets coming to town for 4 games next week. Both of those are great events to look for game time tickets. And they do comedy, concerts, theater, all the sports, everything. So get in with Game Time. And when you download the Game Time app, create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. It's that easy. Download Game Time today. So, what needs to be settled for the Philadelphia Phillies? What is still kind of out there in the ether trying to be figured out by Rob Thompson, Dave Dombrowski, and the rest of the staff here in Philadelphia that needs to be settled? There are more options than you would like for a playoff-bound baseball team. And yes, to all the people who are still losing their minds, the Philadelphia Phillies are going to make the playoffs. All right? Has that been settled yet? All the people who said they're not even going to make it, they won't be there, don't even worry about October. That was silly, and it still is. But how far will they go? Will they win their division? These are all questions that are still up in the air. And it's totally fine to have concerns about the Phillies because they have been on shifting sand, it feels like, for the whole year in some of these spots we're going to talk about. Let's start with the most obvious one, the outfield. We have gone from, remember, start of the year, Brandon Marsh is going to get an opportunity to play. Max Kepler is going to play in left field. Nick Castellanos is going to play in right field. Hey, okay, so Brandon Marsh is the tentative everyday starter. Kepler's going to play. Castellanos is going to play. Easy, right? And then Kepler stinks. And then Marsh stinks. And then you're trying to do this whole Rojas type of comparison, flip-flop, back and forth with defensive stuff. And Castellanos is okay, but not great. And there's all these issues, and you end up platooning in left because Kepler's not been very good. And then you end up platooning in center. And all of this stuff goes wrong over the course of the season to the point where now, at any given time, you could see Weston Wilson, you could see Max Kepler, you could see Brandon Marsh in left. You could see Brandon Marsh or Harrison Bader in center. You could see Nick Castellanos or Max Kepler in right. There have been a lot of different things that have changed in the outfield for the Philadelphia Phillies in just the past 2 weeks. Nick Castellanos has now found himself as a member of a quasi-platoon to match the other 2 outfield spots. When does it need to be settled by? The end of the second week of September. So let me just look at the date for you because the calendar is always different on what date falls when. But I'm telling you, by the time we hit Monday, the 15th of September, you need to know this guy's playing left, this guy's playing center, this guy's playing right. I will be okay with 1 platoon. But to me, I think I already know the answer here. I want Bader in center, I want Marsh in left, and I want Castellanos splitting time with Kepler in right. I would have called myself crazy if I went back into a time machine to like a month ago and said that. But that's kind of where we find ourselves. Is that potentially detrimental to Nick Castellanos, having him be the guy that platoons because he seems to be a guy that has to work through his problems by playing? Maybe. But by the 15th, that needs to be settled down. You cannot roll into the postseason saying, well, we don't know who our outfield is going to be day in and day out. Can there be some variability? If guys need days off or guys slump, sure. I'm not saying write them in pen, but I'm saying like 3 times out of 4, that should be your outfield alignment. Bader center, Marsh left, rotation and right, depending on handedness. That's what you do. And I don't know how willing the Phillies are to get there, but I'm starting to get like antsy about them really putting the stamp on who's playing where in the outfield. The rotation is another one. Now, this one's going to take longer. You'll find out maybe a week before the postseason what the Phillies are doing with the rotation. And with Walker Buehler joining the squad, with Nola, who we're going to talk about coming up, making another big start against the Brewers today. Ranger will see what he is. Luzardo will see what he is. We know Sanchez is going to be part of it. But like, there's a lot of stuff up in the air with the rotation. The problem with this one is I can't just be like, figure it out by the 15th because you only see these guys once every 5 games, or when Buehler makes a start, once every 6 games. And then what do you do? Who's hot, who's not? Who's got the better resume? Who's more veteran? Do you go handedness? I honestly don't have an answer to this one. And the only thing that's going to tell us is by watching the games. So that I'm willing to give them more time on, but that will need to be settled. So that's another point of emphasis. And then the bullpen roles, which we already kind of talked about in the first segment, but Alvarado, he got some leverage innings. Is he going to continue? I can't have it much longer. I'm not ready to do that yet where I say you can't throw him in like the 7th or 8th inning because his stuff still plays. But at some point, you got to cut ties with a guy who's not going to be able to throw in the postseason and say, you can throw in the 6th, you can throw in the 5th, but I need to know 8th inning is one of these two guys. 7th inning is one of these two guys. A couple wild card dudes that could fill in if need be in some spots. And then the 9th inning, obviously, is going to be Joan Duran. But that one, I'd like to see start to be settled on the same time frame as the outfield situation, 15th of September. Got to be a big show on that Monday, not just because you're in a situation where you're coming off a week where you played the Mets and you got a lot of stuff going on with big series, but because I'm drawing the line in the sand right there for Rob Thompson, Dave Dombrowski, and their staff to make these calls. Maybe not come out and be like, this is what we're doing, like expressly say it, but I better see it. Because if not, we're going to have a lot of question marks heading into October. And that's not necessarily a good thing for when teams need to be firing on all cylinders. Coming up next, well, hey, Phillies might need to be firing on all cylinders today. Play the Brewers again. They could win the series, or we could have a major issue with Aaron Nola, which we may already have. We'll talk about it coming up next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Monarch Money first, though, because most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why Monarch Money exists. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Let me tell you right now, I'm just going to scroll through my home screens real quick. There's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5. I've already found 5 different apps that I have money in or use my finances for and stuff like that. Having all of that together in one is so much easier. Monarch is built for people like me and probably people like you, people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, and you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization, that's that word, of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Go ahead and check them out at monarchmoney.com. All right, big time follow-up to a big-time win for the Phillies. Phil's Brewers Game 2, buckle up. Yeah, it's going to be a wild one. If we learned anything from Game 1, these two teams, they are going to put on one heck of a series. And we got 2 more games of it. I want you to try and do something for me because there's a lot on the line tonight, as there will be pretty much every night for the rest of the season. But try and just sit back and kick your feet up, at least for a couple innings of this game, and just be like, wow, these are 2 really cool, good, fun baseball teams to watch. The 2 best teams in the National League duking it out with big-time playoff implications. We know the Phillies are trying to hold off the Mets and doing a solid job of that in the division. Look at the Cubs now, though, starting to make up some ground on the Brewers. So there's pressure on both of these teams to lock down their division and to hold their standing in the National League postseason picture. That breeds great competition. And we saw great competition and great drama in Game 1. Now, I'm not telling you there's going to be a questionable check swing or a manager ejection, but I'm saying I bet you that these are some really darn good baseball games coming up. And the only guy that really looks like he could make tonight not a great baseball game would be if Aaron Nola goes out there and struggles mightily. And we know he's had his struggles this year. He has had a rough time, not just pre-long injured list stint, but in his most recent starts. I mean, you just look at what he's done over his past couple of starts. He did start that game against the Atlanta Braves where the Phils scored 19 runs. We know he got into trouble early. He gave up 4 earned runs on 4 hits, 6 innings. I told you after that game, I don't really know how to evaluate that Aaron Nola performance, right? Because the Phils started running it up, so the Braves kind of lost focus, and he was bad early, but then settled in when the game seemed to be getting out of hand. So were the Braves really fully zoned in on their at-bats? I don't know. He did find a way to pitch his team to a win. 6 innings, 4 earned, only allowed 4 hits, did walk 3. That's something that can't happen because the Brewers will be patient. Prior to that, he went 6 innings, allowed 2 earned against the Nationals in a game that the Phillies ended up winning. Prior to that, he went 2 1/3 innings in his return from the injured list, right? He's only made 3 starts since. You know what's funny? He looked bad in that start against Washington, gave up 6 earned. Looked bad in the start against Atlanta right off the rip, gave up 4 earned. Looked better against Washington in his second start back from the injured list, but still gave up 2 earned and 2 home runs in that game. The Phillies have won all 3, believe it or not, of Aaron Nola's starts since he came back off the injured list. So I don't know, man. He hasn't been great, but they've won all 3. So like, what do you do with that information? You wait for the next point of information, and we get it tonight. Now, not only is Aaron Nola going to be on the mound, but Jose Quintana is going to take the ball for the Milwaukee Brewers. And you'll remember Jose Quintana. He's a guy that the Phillies have seen plenty of times. And they have not had a lot of success against Quintana, who is a tough lefty. And we know that this team, they lack righty bats and righty power bats. So Quintana has a 3.69 ERA. He struck out only 77 batters in 114 2/3 innings pitched. So he's not a guy that's going to come out there and throw the ball by you. He's more one of these junk ball crafty lefties, which that can be tricky for some teams. I will tell you, I think Jose Quintana's pitching style, in theory, would play to the way that the Phillies need to play baseball, right? You face a guy that has a bunch of strikeouts. I don't think this is great for a team that strikes out a bunch. You face a guy that can't really punch you out, and it may play to the, hey, if we're going to make contact, it's going to be hard contact, and it's going to go somewhere. And that's kind of what the Phillies' ethos really is to me still. Even while they try and change their approach over the course of this season, I still see them as a team that wants to hit the ball hard and hit the ball often. Not so much walk, not so much advanced runners. Whether that's the best strategy for the current climate of baseball, I don't know. But maybe they'll go get Quintana. And the guys that I look for, I think Schwarber is kind of due to have another one of those days. Maybe it's just 1 home run, but I like Schwarber to go yard today. I do. He's really good lefty, even though Quintana is a tough at bat for lefties. And you know what? If Nick Castellanos gets the start today, maybe take a look at him, because I imagine Castillo will be out there. And I think he's getting to the point where he's realizing, oh, they're not playing me every day anymore. They're not giving me opportunities based on resume. I got to go earn it. And maybe this is one where he just kind of zones in and he's like, all right, I got to take this dude deep. I got to get an opportunity to win back some playing time. Maybe he comes up with a big swing in this game. But I'd expect you to see Bader in center again because, hey, righty, lefty, why wouldn't you? I would think you might see Weston Wilson out in left field for Max Kepler or Brandon Marsh. And then I would think you would see Nick Castellanos in right, the all right-handed outfield, Edmundo Sosa probably at shortstop at second. So you're going to get all the righties in besides Schwarber and Harper. And I don't mind that at all today against Jose Quintana. And then you'll have the opportunity for pinch hit guys late with guys like Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh. Brandon Marsh being the number one guy that I would pinch hit because he's been swinging a really, really hot bat. But the question is, Marsh just had a 4-hit game. Can you sit him, even though it's a tough lefty? Again, this is why I need the outfield settled, because I hate having these will they, won't they stardom conversations. It should be easy to just say, play the guy who had 4 hits the last game. But the Phillies haven't shown that they're willing to do that. So a lot of stuff to watch for, an opportunity to win a series against the Brewers, an opportunity to let them even it and make tomorrow's start really, really interesting for, well, the guy that you want on the mound in a really, really interesting start, Ranger Suarez, who just never lets anything get to him, it seems. So this series ain't slowing down. I know Monday was an instant classic. I can't say that this game will live up to. There we go. Come on, man. Figure out your words, Connor. Live up to the billing of what happened in game one. But I know these are two really good, motivated teams. And this is what you play baseball for, to watch these type of games unfold. Or I guess that's why you watch baseball, which is what we'll all be doing. Coming your way at 7:40 tonight, live from Milwaukee. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out, liking and subscribing. I'd love your comments on your pitcher faith power rankings for the Phillies bullpen, and we will talk more on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Phillies.